Okay, let's continue and look at, we previously looked at storage and access, then requirements, attributes, because each requirement you're going to have, they're going to have some attribute, they're going to have some kind of characteristics. So we're going to look at this requirement a lot when we get to elicitation and when we get to requirements. So let's proceed by looking at planning, business analysis, information management, some of the guidelines and tools. So what are the kind of things that you need to be able to do business analysis management? So you need some performance assessment. That's how you've done before now. Then some business policies. How do you do your stuff? Because if a company needs to have certification or needs to have an agreement, have a contract with stakeholders, with developers, with who needs to work on projects or stakeholders or government agencies or regulators, it then means that is how it needs to be done. That means there's an established way, a policy that how you carry out your stuff. So that contributes to part of your guidelines and tools. The information management tools, right? It can be a wiki, it can be a whiteboard, it can be like a document management system. They also have legal and regulatory information. So because for some industries, there's always a way things should be done. So that's also informs what your business analysis information management tool can be like. What are some of the techniques that you're going to be using if you are going to do business analysis information management? So brainstorming. Like I said, you are going to see a lot of these techniques evolving and being applied in different ways across all of the knowledge areas. So very key. So one of the things you want to do is to look at the Babel guide, right? Where you have the 50 techniques and start learning the techniques one after the other, because you're going to see them in a lot of from page 216 of the Babel guide. You're going to see the techniques evolving in a lot of the knowledge areas, right? Acceptance and evaluation criteria. So you see the techniques, acceptance and evaluation criteria, backlog management, balance scorecard. So there are about 50 of them. Like I said, I'm going to take my time and do some records for the techniques, maybe in groups of 10s. And maybe also provide some templates or provide templates for all of the 50 techniques. So we can be using mind mapping in elicitation. We can use mind mapping in planning. We can use mind mapping in also, what's it called? In also solution evaluation. We can use brainstorming in, we can use brainstorming in planning. We can use brainstorming in elicitation. We can use brainstorming in requirement lifecycle management. We can even use brainstorming in strategy analysis. So understanding these techniques is very key in you understanding the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 knowledge areas of business analysis. So see, brainstorming used to help stakeholders uncover their business analysis information management needs. If you go to brainstorming, for instance, as a technique, you're going to see how brainstorming, what's the purpose of brainstorming, what's the description, and how it should be done. I think in the previous content, we looked at this. In the previous classes, we looked at brainstorming extensively. Then we have interviews. How do you carry out interviews? That is I. We go to interviews is a type of technique. So what's the purpose of interview? So interview is a systematic approach designed to elicit, to derive, to collect business analysis information from a person or group of people by talking to the interviewees, asking relevant questions and documenting the responses. The interview can also be used to establish relationship and build trust between business analysts and stakeholders. Like I told you, the job of a business analyst is to intermediate between technical teams, stakeholders, project sponsors, and the rest, in order to increase stakeholder involvement or build support for a proposed solution. You want to build a software to expand the business. You want to expand the geographical location of a business to deliver more value. Some of the things you're going to be doing is to do interviews. You're going to be asking questions. You're going to ask this person, how about this? What do you think about this? How about this? What do you think about this? Because those people are stakeholders, other people that are going to be, like I said, impacted, influenced, interested. If you need to open a new branch in Tokyo, for instance, you might have some stakeholders that are in Tokyo. You need to interact with them. You need to interview them. You need to ask them questions. What do you think about this business? If we move it from country A to country B, do you think people need it? What are some of the concerns? What are some of the cultural barriers? What are some of risks that we might face? That's what interview is about. Then we have description. So it's a common technique for eliciting requirements. So you see, we are looking at interviews in planning. We're also looking at it in elicitation. So there are two types of interviews. So we have structured and unstructured. So a structured interview is going to have something that looks like a questionnaire. It has some set of questions. Then an unstructured interview is going to be determined by even the way the person is answering. That will tell what kind of next questions you're going to be asking. So let's look at some of the elements of interviews. So there must be a goal. You must have a list of potential interviewees. You must have some interview questions. So you see, BABOK, the Business Analysis Board of Knowledge, tells you how to do stuff as a business analyst. So if you want to be a professional business analyst, you need to understand some of these techniques. So it changes the way you do work. You see, sometimes when you're engaging with some clients, because of the way they want to do stuff, as a professional, because you know that's not going to give you your end result, which is value derivation. You cut out some of those things and you want to channel and keep it to the standard how things should be done. Open-ended questions are used to elicit a dialogue or series of steps and cannot be answered in a yes or no fashion. I have on my channel something on questionnaire design. So you can look it up. I think it's under the data analysis playlist. Questionnaire. So an interview is like a questionnaire, and a questionnaire is like a set of questions, right? The same questions to different persons to elicit some kind of views. So interview logistics. So how are you going to ask those questions? Are you going to do it in person, over phone? Is it online conferencing? Is it going to be the fill a form online? Are you going to record it or you're not going to record it? How is it going to flow? How are you going to do follow-up? So what are some of the limitations? What are some of the ways you can adapt? What are some of the strengths and limitations? So the strength is that it encourages participants to establish rapport with stakeholders. It enables observation of non-verbal behaviors. Of course, if it's something that is written. Limitation, a lot of time is involved. It requires a lot of planning. Training is required to conduct effective interviews. So if you're not experienced in conducting interviews, it might be difficult for you to even get the right questions out of the interviewees. So that is interviews. So we have item tracking, we have lessons learned, we have mind mapping, we have process modeling. Let me talk about process modeling. Now, we'll talk about mind mapping and some of these ones later on. So I'll be picking up the techniques little by little, expanding them, so that over time, if we look at all of the knowledge areas, I would have covered explaining most of the techniques. So I'm going to explain the techniques that are very, very key and important to the particular knowledge area we are considering. Then the ones that we apply more to the other knowledge areas, I'll consider them later. So let's talk about process modeling. Now, what do you call business process? Now, you know, if a company is doing, let's say it's an e-commerce company, that means they're going to do buying, they're going to do selling, they're going to do logistics, they're going to do shipping, they're going to do they're going to have some kind of inventory management, they're going to have receipt invoicing, they're going to have payments. All of these 6 items I mentioned are their business processes. Now, part of what a business analyst is going to be doing is try to model this process. It's try to see the pattern. It's try to see how does this happen. If you go to the banking industry, if you go to healthcare, go to government agencies, there's always the way things happen. So your process model is used to document the process or method for managing business analysis information. So how are things done? You need to actually like model it. You need to actually lay it down so it can help you manage information. Then who are some of the stakeholders? So we have domain subject matter experts, we have regulators, and we have sponsors. What are you going to have at the end of the day? You're going to have information management approach. So you're going to have an approach that will tell how you're going to store, how you're going to assess, how you're going to utilize those documents, those information during change, and of course, after the change is complete. So let's look at 3.5, identify business analysis, performance improvement. So performance improvement have to do with KPIs. Performance improvement have to do with progress. So how do we track progress? That's 3.5. So what are some of the inputs? So we have our performance objectives, our business analysis approach. Then some of the things we're going to be having at the end of the day, it's going to be our plan business analysis approach, it's going to be our plan stakeholder engagement, it's going to be our analysis governance, it's going to be business analysis governance, it's going to be our stakeholder collaboration, it's going to be our information management analysis. Then we're going to be using organizational performance standards, right? I'm going to talk about this. So, so we have what we call organizational performance standards. So every organization is going to have what they call their standard. They're going to have what their KPIs are, their key performance index. They are going to have like some kind of, it's different from benchmark, but they're going to have what is like their, yes, it's kind of similar to benchmark. It's going to be like what is their bare minimum, right? What is going to be, what is their average, what they shouldn't go below that. So of course that is going to help us manage and improve on our services. So this is to identify business analysis performance improvement to help to plan, to improve processes where required. Don't forget, in the previous slide, I talked about processes, logistics, shipping, marketing, recruitment, HR, payments, shipping. All of these are business processes for an e-commerce company. For healthcare, for a hospital, you have things like your what's it called, your card, the card system. You can have how the doctors manage a flow between patients from one section of the hospital to the other, from the inventory, from the card, the registry system, registry section to the doctors, from the doctors to the lab, from the lab. So all of these, they have their different processes. But the question is, how do we improve that? Do you know that I've seen where in some hospitals where they do some kind of change, they do some kind of value addition by implementing softwares, and that slows down their service delivery? How many of us have seen that or witnessed that? You have a hospital that was manual before, but they now implemented the software to automate their and to have a kind of a health management system, and that now slows down their processes.
Yeah, I don't think I think I've not seen anyway. I don't know, maybe because of the kind of hospital I go to. But in my company,
right on.
I've seen in my company where I work, I think the normal process to use was better than when they installed the software system. It started slowing down process, you know, because it's like an automated something.
So
instead of
why was there not an improvement in the process when they added a solution to a problem?
I think basically the issues I discovered was basically on the system capacity. It's small.
Okay.
So even me, because I have little idea on system capacity and softwares and all that, so I advise that they should buy a higher system capacity that could carry the volume of work installed. So most times when they want to do something, before you know it, the system shuts down.
Good.
Like as if it wants to crash. Yes. So I think that is basically a major problem. Then we have two people that can run the system. So if they're not there, nothing works.
Yeah, so that can be a problem. The next person, you were trying to say something.
Oh, it's the same thing that she just said that I was trying to say.
Okay, good. So
you have capable hands that can operate the system, and you have the systems that were equipped to carry out any function that is required. Yeah, it won't go slow like that.
Yeah.
The outcome will be better.
So now what we're trying to do in 3.5 is that we want to actually identify business analysis performance improvement. We want to see, are there areas that we need some process improvement? Now, you see that, like we just explained now, you can almost see a hospital that actually want to automate their system, have a lot of data, so they can make informed decision, because you're going to see in business analysis, there's a close link between business analysis and data analytics. Because most of the times, you will see some techniques are things like data mining. Let me see if I can get that. You see data dictionary, data flow diagram, data mining, data modeling. Are you there? You cannot do all of that without data. Financial analysis, you can't do that without data. What else you can't do without data? Even your SWOT analysis, it might be difficult for you to do it without data, because how do you know your strength? How do you know what your strengths are? How do you know what your weaknesses are if you've not collected that particular data? So you see that in some cases, you're going to implement some solutions, but it might not really result to some kind of improvement. So that's what we're trying to look at. We're trying to identify them and see how we can improve processes where required. So description: to monitor and improve performance, it is necessary to establish the performance measure. Imagine some people's performance measure that they should, in a hospital, they should treat or they should attend to only 50 patients per day. Is that a standard? Is that a good benchmark? Now, conduct performance analysis, report on the result of the analysis, and identify any necessary preventive, corrective, or developmental actions. Right? That's what we're trying to do in performance improvement. So what are some of the inputs? So we need some business analysis approach, right? Then we also need performance objectives. This is external. Describe the desired performance outcome that an enterprise organization is hoping to achieve. And at times, customers and clients, if it's a hospital, patients, for instance, can also serve as an input to what our performance should be. True or false?
True.
So if customers are giving you feedback and say, no, this thing is not, please just even revert back to manual. Please, okay, you guys should get more hands. Or you come to the bank and you are seeing that, oh, that you just have only 5 teller and you have over like 100 customers trying to maybe withdraw money, send money, do Western Union, do checks, do all of these. And all of these are feedback. At times, you see them, they even have a feedback box from external sources to help them try to improve their process. They tell you, please, what do you think? Tell us what you feel about our services and the rest. Some people even do questionnaire and send it out, and so that they can improve their. Sometime Arik airline, or is it Arik or Epis? One of these airlines after the flight, got a mail. They said, okay, please help us fill this questionnaire. Did you fly from where to where? Did you fly executive? Did you fly, business class? Did you fly economy? Did you fly, did you take meal? How was the snacks? How was the air conditioning system? Did you depart early? They ask a lot of questions. And you see all of these questions, and a data analyst is going to analyze it. A business analyst is going to look at it, and that can help them do what? Achieve better performance. So what are some of the elements? Performance analysis, assessment measures, analyze results, recommend actions for improvement. What are some of the tools? You have organizational performance standards. This will include performance metrics, expectation for business analysis work, mandated by the organization. Let's look at this from the Bubble Guide. Business analysis, this is 3.5, business organization now performance standard. Organizational performance standard. Organizational performance. Okay, second. Okay, I think this just includes performance metrics expectation for business analysis work mandated by the organization. Okay, some of the techniques, I think I've talked about this earlier on. Your key performance index, okay, this is what I'm looking out for. So your key performance index is just what is going to show that you're performing, right? And I've talked about process modeling earlier on. The root cause analysis, what caused the failure? Like the systems you guys were talking about, what caused the failure? Why is the system shutting down? Is it because of the capacity? Is it because of the software? Or is it because of power? Or is it because of your internet? In some cases, it's the internet. So you need to do some kind of root cause analysis. You need to look at why do you have failure? Why do you have difficulty in accomplishing business analysis work? Right? At times you need to do surveys or questionnaires, like I talked about the airline, gather feedback from stakeholders about their satisfaction with business analysis activities and deliverables. At times you need to do workshops. You can be team staff members, you do some kind of webinar, you do some workshop, you ask them questions, they're going to look at some of these things. And sometimes you need to look at your process analysis. What are your process? Analyze it, right? And try to identify opportunities for improvement. If you see that, okay, your systems are slow, can you upgrade them? If you see your internet is poor, can you get another sponsor for your internet facility, or can you upgrade your internet facility? If you see that, okay, you have issues with power, can you add UPS, or can you have an inverter system? All of these things are the things you do to try to improve your processes. Okay, so that's what we have here. So interviews, brainstorming, item tracking, lessons learned. And at times, lessons learned is very, very critical, very, very important, because a business that learns from its previous mistake will actually make progress. But if the business is not learning from its previous mistake, then it will be difficult for the business to actually make progress. If it will be difficult for the business to actually make some improvements. So lessons learned is very key, very, very critical. So you need your domain name experts, you need your project manager, you need your sponsors for that. Then you're going to have some kind of performance assessment at the end of the day. This is what is going to be your output. So this includes a comparison of plan versus actual performance. What did we say we were going to do at the beginning of the year? Like I met with somebody today, he was talking about somebody that said at the beginning of the year, he's going to do ABCD. So he set a standard, he set a performance index. The question is that, is it doing some kind of monitoring? Is it checking up? Is it comparing? Is it doing some kind of performance assessment to look at what he said he was going to do, what is the standard, and where he's at the particular point in time, this particular point in time. Here, we want to also identify the root cause of variance, difference from the expected performance, propose approach to address the issues, and other findings to help understand the performance of business analysis processes. We have questions? So we're going to answer these questions. You have questions before you answer my questions? Any questions so far?
So I have a question. During based on like the processes, the techniques that you made mention of, brainstorming, interview, and all that. Yes, is it possible to in business analysis must there be like a flow pattern or like
I have to do this technique before this technique.
Yeah, can you skip something like maybe jump into another one instead of going through?
Yes, yes. So I think yesterday we answered that question, or 2 days ago. We said that you have a lot of techniques. Now, not all the techniques are going to be applicable in some certain situations. Take, for instance, you have this technique now for performance improvement, right? You see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're not necessarily going to use all of it, or you're not necessarily going to use maybe use this before this. So it's going to be adaptable to that particular business, that particular process you want to improve. Take, for instance, there are some, if it's a new business, so there's nothing like lessons learned even, except you want to be learning from other businesses, that is other people's experience. But when we talk about lessons learned, we mean your own lessons, right? So if it's a new business, so there's no lessons learned, this is off the game. Now, if the business does not allow you to even perform interviews, or if you are going to have confidentiality issues, so this is out of it. Are you there? Now we're going to see where observation play a key role, especially in elicitation and requirements gathering. At times, observation can be somebody actually just looking, or even job shadowing somebody to see what the issues are. We're going to know whether it's from the system, or whether it's from the process, or it's from the person. So at times it's applicable, at times it's not. Then you have reviews, you have risk analysis and management, you have root cause analysis, you have surveys. At times, we might prefer to do interviews rather than doing surveys and questionnaire. At times, we might not have the budget to actually organize a workshop, right? So you mustn't use all of the techniques for a particular knowledge area or for a particular task. Then there is no this must come before this. So it's just adaptable. So the business analyst is going to look at what works best and what can give him results within a very short time frame.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so anybody have any other question?
No question.
Okay, good. So let's answer my questions. Number 1. Who have an answer?
B, number 1.
Any other counter answer?
No.
Why did you say B?
Sir, sorry, repeat.
So why B? Why is the answer B? And why is the answer not A? Why is the answer not D?
When do you define the business analysis approach? I think once we have a task at hand, the first thing to do is to understand, once we are able to understand the project or whatever task we are being called upon, I think it starts from the beginning of the project, by brainstorming, and interview using the techniques that will determine the outcome or the output.
So at the beginning of the project is always when you should look at the business analysis approach. How are you going to do stakeholders? Yes. How are you going to get the details? How are you going to have your information, your document? How are you going to approach storing them? How are you going to approach assessing them? How are you going to approach even sharing the information you have and the rest? So it's always at the beginning. Number 2.
This one should be as soon as the business need has been, after the business analysis approach has been. I think it's D. I think so. I'm not sure.
B.
Okay. B. Fine. Okay.
So it should be D.
Yeah, D.
Okay. Now, so it's not B, because you cannot just say, okay, because I have a need, I start saying I'm going to do A, B, C, D. No, you have to first define the approach. It's like when you are to do a job for somebody, and a professional will always say, how do you want us to deliver this? So that is the approach, actually. So he says, okay, I'm going to collect $1,000. I'm going to start a job on so day. I'm going to be giving reports every 1 week. I'm going to be communicating to you either on phone call or on WhatsApp. There's not going to be physical meeting because the project does not allow us to incur that cost. Then I'm going to be sharing the information to you via email. We're going to have a Google Drive where we're going to be dropping everything so we can track changes. Then we're going to have a physical meeting every quarter throughout this 1 year. That is what we call the business analysis approach. So you see, we're talking about stakeholders, we're talking about document information, you're talking about, this is how I'm going to meet you physically for 2 times to collect your requirements. All of these things are what we call the approach. So is when you have a need, then you now look at the approach before you start looking at the activities. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is that people's expectations, stakeholders' expectations are going to be, people are going to say different things at different times within the solution delivery, and you can have issues. Okay, so we're going to go for 10 minutes break. When we come back, we'll look at a few slides and we'll call it a day.